Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and welcome to another ENFP male interview. Today, I get to interview Charles. So, Charles, welcome, man.
Hello, my name is Charlie. I'm an ESFP double feminine. Oh my god. SEFI, consume, play, blast, sleep. Got that. And yeah, I'm 18 years old and I'm super excited to do this interview. So yeah.
And how did you feel when you got and what did you think when you got your results back?
I had an existential crisis for about 2 weeks. I was I like had expectations. I was sure that I had any somewhere in my stack. I thought I was like a standard ENFP, and then I thought maybe like an ENTP jumper type or whatever. And that's kind of like what a lot of people were telling me. That's what their guesses were. And so when I got my results back, I was like really, really shocked. And but at the same time, it made so much sense. And I think part of my brain was like trying to like you're not an ESFP. Like that was like the one time where I was like, no, you're not an ESFP. And yeah, there was only one time I was in the car and I was talking with my friend who's like a supposed INTJ, and I was like talking to her about typing and stuff like that, and I was listening to my words almost like I'd stepped back, like sort of like astral projected over my body and was like observing myself talking and seeing how much I was like sensor talking, and maybe it was like infodom too, but it was kind of crazy. And then I was like, wait, am I an ESFP? And then I just like completely blew that off. I was like, no, I'm not. And then there you go. So
You got it.
got it. So
Yeah. You do have masculine NI, so I do feel like because of your masculine NI, you do feel like kind of intuitive in a way because you can see it. So yeah, we'll talk about that later. Uh,
yeah.
let's go over your functions, man. Let's start with the first one, feminine extrovert sensing. So I did notice that feminine extrovert sensing is so different from masculine extrovert sensing. There's like a big difference. But I want to hear what your version of it is. So can you share like how you see your feminine extrovert sensing?
This is how I see my feminine extrovert sensing.
Hey.
But beyond that, it's kind of a crutch, but at the same time, I don't know. It's really interesting like now that I've started to observe it, because it's a really, in my opinion, it's a really quiet function. But it really kind of like plays into a lot of my reality and like how I perceive reality. I think the sucky side of it is like organizing my physical world, losing my stuff like all the time, like being whatever, like not being very time conscientious, and like 30 minutes later it's like not making any sense. I think whatever structure. Anyways, but for me, I see like feminine and extroverted sensory as sort of like it's almost just like really adaptive to everything. And it's I don't know, like I can get myself into like a headspace where I'm really excited and like motivated and like just kind of feeling like I'm trying to really articulate my words here. um, it's like I'll be at a something. I'll be like not having fun or whatever, or like in a situation where I'm not having fun, and I can sort of adjust my reality or my perception of reality in order to have fun. So I can sort of like, I don't know if that has anything to do with like feminine SE, but I just like see that kind of happening a lot. But I don't know. I think in general, I don't I don't know. I don't know. God, it's so hard to pin it down. It's really hard. Like, and I'm still kind of to this day like trying to like tie it down, but it's definitely gathering. It's definitely channel changing, but in kind of like a sloppy kind of way. Really like really movable. Like just like I'll be in one like frame of reference in reality and just be like, okay, yeah, let's go. Like, no, let's go somewhere else. Or like, oh, let's like consume this, or like, let's consume that. So I don't know if that made any sense, but
Yeah. Do you like it when like people grab you and stuff because you're feminine extrovert sensing? Like you have like a masculine sensory friend that would like grab you and like hug you or whatever, or
yeah,
like
I I thought I was masculine sensory for a long time because I like to be really like kind of with people, like just like I don't know, like pushy with other people,
yeah.
and I sometimes like am unaware of my like pushiness or something like that, and also like breaking things. Like I really have a bad habit of like breaking things not on purpose but like kind of accidentally. Like and it sucks. So I really don't know. I always thought like I was masculine sensory because I thought that I was more like pushy physically, and I like to push and stuff like that. I like to like move people. but at the same time, like I realize that like maybe it's my natural like instinct to do that, or like maybe it's like a little bit of peacocking or whatever. But I don't know. I don't really have like somebody that like is like that. And yeah, I don't know.
I mean, how do you feel when people like grab you or touch you? Like, do you like it?
Um, Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. And maybe that's because I got like robbed when I was in Costa Rica. I did a year
Okay.
abroad in Costa Rica. I
Okay.
got robbed and I got kind of like choked and like that was not fun. So maybe it's like my PTSD from that that is like preventing
Okay.
me from wanting to be like moved around and touched and stuff like that. But I just never saw myself as a person that liked to be like moved around and stuff like that. But maybe that's something that I still have yet to observe. That's the one thing that that's the one part of it that I don't really see happening is like I just don't like, maybe it's the OE not wanting to feel controlled or smothered, but I just don't like that like control aspect or like the pushy aspect, I guess. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your FI, your masculine FI. Can you share some with me some of your like values, personal values?
Yeah, sure. My number one value, or at least value that I've been with most of my life, is like I'm a vegan, so like I'm all for like climate change, and like I, don't think, eating animals is super cool. So, I like go with that. Also, I just really value like open-mindedness. I think that's like one of the biggest things that I have. I have a lot of trouble. It's just kind of just puts a stop, or just I just don't like it when people are so kind of closed-minded or not really and not able to take a step from outside of themselves and see like the bigger picture. I think it's really important to like see both sides of every situation, um, no matter what. And I think like sometimes I see people getting stuck with that, maybe single deciders, and I kind of am confused by that, and or just like I would rather more. Yeah. And then I also understand where they're coming from. Like, bruh, like, but it's really difficult. But at the same time, I really value open mindedness and I really value trying new things all the time. Like, um, you can't like not know that you like something until you try it. I think kindness is also something that I really value, which is stupid maybe because kindness is so like should come firsthand. But I think, especially with my generation, Gen Z, like being mean is kind of like a cool thing now. Like, oh, I'm gonna be all like catty and petty, and it's like it's so stupid. Like, there's no point in that. And yeah, so yeah, those are some values, scattered values. I don't know. Yeah, that's it.
Well, the thing that I noticed when you were saying stuff was that you are definitely very double decider. Like you're very balanced with self and others. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a bit? Like just being able to see everyone's perspective and yours as well. And you always know when you've gone too far for being too selfish, or you also know like when other people are doing what they're doing is not cool, and it's like time to like balance things out and like just being okay with like seeing everyone's perspective in yourself.
Yeah, my double deciding is kind of crazy, and it's honestly great because I sort of see myself and always like before I make that like oh like this like person like I'm just like wait but like I need to like really like take into account like what this person is going through their sort of story like it's not just that and like it may have been me that caused the problem. Like there's always those times where I'm just like shifting where I'll think like so one thing about one situation, but then I'm like, no, I just can't like narrow in on like deciding whether it was my fault or their fault. Like it always is going back and forth,
Yeah.
and it's maybe it can be like a crutch in certain circumstances because I can sometimes like over double decide when like I probably should like take like I have a DI like a IP friend who's very much like you need to like just say that that person sucks and like move on like just like admit that they're like a horrible person but like I just can't do that like I don't think anybody is like innately horrible I don't think people just do things to be mean I think it all comes from some like bigger motive or whatever and I don't know I just don't believe in like inherent evil like I don't think that that's like a thing that exists
Yeah.
really yeah
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing. Maybe you just haven't met someone that is like, really evil. So,
yeah
yeah, because like I think I'm pretty sure most people that you meet, yeah, some people are not as nice as others, but there's in general, everyone has good qualities and bad qualities, right? So,
yeah
yeah.
yeah and even like with like evil and like like inflicting harm upon a person. Actually, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like,
Your
they
videos.
probably had a bad childhood. Like, something. So,
Charles, I think your video's cutting off. I think your video's cutting off.
I think it's overall a good thing, and I like to be able to.
Charles?
Oh,
Oh, there we go. It's back now. But yeah, your video's back,
back. Okay.
but your audio is not.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Maybe I have to go. Should I go to?
I don't know. You have bad internet connection where you are right now.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go somewhere that has better connection. Okay. All right. Let's see how this works. The bad connection is an issue in general. Um, okay. I'm back. Hopefully this is better.
Yeah, so far so good. So I guess we'll find out shortly.
Sure enough. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about your next function, your feminine TE. So it's like knowing what works for everyone, but also because it's feminine, it's like flexible. I have feminine TE as well, so we kind of share that function together. Can you describe your feminine TE?
My feminine TE is really kind of like advice, like just giving like a lot of kind of like advice on how like something can work. Uh, and very like not pushy about it. Like I'll just kind of like give advice, and like if it doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. Like I'm just kind of like usually sharing from like my DI experience and like what I'm used to or what I've learned, what I've SE consumed. Like here's what I've consumed and decided what works like for me, but I'm just gonna like shit it out and like I never want to push on that. But at the same time, it's really good for like um problem solving and things like that, coming up with new ideas and sort of finding a way to work around certain things. And just yeah, I find that to be really helpful in that aspect. But yeah, I guess it's definitely feminine, so it's not gonna be pushing or biting or anything. It's very subdued, but it's kind of a good thing. It's kind of honestly kind of a good thing because if we're working on a group project, this is like one thing that I really like is like when we're working on a group project or something, I'm always like kind of like just shitting out ideas and stuff. And if somebody doesn't like it or like they don't think it's gonna work, then I'm like, okay, great, here's another one. Like here's another idea. How about this one? And then it kind of like goes on like that, and like there's no real like attachment to it. It's just kind of like an outpour, and then we like come to a conclusion. And it's great. I love it. So yeah, I think it's I like that.
I think the interesting thing about your specific type, like the double feminine ESFP, is I think if you didn't study OPS and know the parts and whatnot, people would probably assume you have extrovert feeling because you're so expressive. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, like but then they wouldn't be able to see that you're actually tapping into your own value system, not like what everyone else values, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's so yeah, and a lot of people thought that I was had FE, and even for a moment I was like, yeah, maybe like I have FE, but for example, like I can go to like I was at my older sister's party, and like everybody wasn't really like dancing, and like it was just kind of like chill. And I thought this was like a very FE moment of me, but like I was like, can I have the aux? Like, can I have the aux, please? And I started like playing some music and sort of like catching the vibes of everything, and I got everybody dancing in the end, and it was so fun. But it was because it was like fun to me. Like I'm like I like getting people like up on their feet, but it's really like if it doesn't work, like I don't really care, but I know that it's gonna work because I know what works like in reality or like what I don't know. So I thought that was like a really FE thing, but I think that was more so like the feminine TE working with my masculine DI to
Yeah.
like figure out kind of the vibe. And then also the SE kind of like just taking in sort of the vibe or being able to see the reality. Yeah, I find myself to be good at that is like getting people on the same page as my FI. Like I'm not getting people that's it's like I'm not trying to go to where other people are going. I'm trying to get people on my level of like how excited I am or
Yeah.
how much fun I'm having, you know. I like to bring people into my DI, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bring into your world. But yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Well, since we're on that topic already, let's talk about your interesting animal here. This is like your most abusive animal that you have. This is your so we have the same one, so it's similar. So we're gonna talk about your double feminine, double activated ST play. Okay, so it's the same as me. I have double activated, double feminine, NT play, right? So I could it's kind of similar. And then our sleep world is also double masculine, so we both share that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your ST play. It's double feminine, double activated. What's going on there?
Um, where do I begin? My double feminine, double activated ST play can be, oh my god, I don't even know how to like begin explaining it or like how I sort of go about it and see it. But I think it's sort of like I really like to sort of like block bang when I'm with people, like debating and stuff like that. Like I'm in a debate class, like I love that sort of like whatever that mentality. But at the same time, like um, it isn't super. Actually, that's not true. Like sometimes it can get really like aggressive sometimes, and maybe I don't know why. Like I'll be I don't know why. Oh my god. Anyways, I'll be like I get very sort of like nitpicky with maybe this is also infodom, but like information, like when information isn't true or if it's not, it doesn't make sense logically, I'm sort of like, whoa, like we need to like reevaluate this because there's some like thing that really isn't working out, like it doesn't make sense, and this isn't actually what's happening, like this is just perception, like false information. Oh, that's another one. Misinformation is a huge one for me. Like that is a really big pet peeve of mine, like spreading misinformation or not thinking things through or jumping to conclusions, like insane conclusions without like taking a step to like observe the whole picture is another big one. So I don't know if that I don't know if that ties into feminine ST play. I don't know if you have any insight to your feminine NT play and how that sort of equates into your life. And maybe I can further connect that. But yeah.
Well, it's a little bit different from yours. So yours is ST. So yours is like the actual physical act of doing something, but mine's NT, right? So mine is like figuring something out with people. So I'm figuring things out with people, and then I will blast the ST afterwards, which is like I'll teach you how to get things done. But because your play is ST and it's play, when you're doing work, you prefer to do it in collaborations. I don't know if that
Oh
resonates.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, like
Oh
like,
yeah.
like yeah, let's say you're like painting or doing arts and crafts, or you're moving furnitures around. You'd rather do it with someone, like it's more fun with others. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, and in that I'm a PA, so like I do production assistant, so I do that every once in a while, like go on set and do that, and I love it. Like it is my fuel, and I real actually this is a perfect connection to like my double feminine ST play. Like I love it so much, like being able to work with people, and it's not really the NT work. It's like the literally moving furniture and like building stuff and like bringing tables over, and it's all with other people. I love that so much. It literally fuels me. I'll spend a 17-hour day doing that, and I'll be like, woo! Like it's so much fun. It's so much fun. Yeah, that's like actually a perfect example on how it sort of ties to that ST play. Literally being a PA is like the epitome, of that whole thing. So yeah.
I think it's also because it's double feminine. It's also very flexible. So if like let's say you're in the middle of moving tables or furnitures around, and someone asks you for help with like something else, you're like, oh sure, yeah, I can.
Oh, it's no, my channel changing on like helping people. Literally, like that's like a good thing, and it's a really good thing, honestly, in the PA world. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm built to be a really great PA because like, I'll be like doing something, and then someone will come to me like, "Oh, I need help with this," and I'm like, "Okay," boop, and I'll be like, and then I come back to the other person, I'm like doing that, and then another person's like, "Oh, I need this," and then I'm helping them out, and then another person will come to me like, "I need help with this," and then I'm like going on to that. So just like channel changing, like one thing to the next, is so fun, and it's all ST work, like it's all the physical reality, getting stuff to work. It's so much fun. That's so awesome. I didn't realize that was like ST play. Honestly, like I knew that was connected somehow, but I didn't really realize that because I was thinking like. And like my other PA friends, like when they're on set, they're always like, "Oh my god, this is so exhausting," like, bruh. But like I like fuel off of that sort of energy. So
Yeah, I think you would do good as like a backstage producer or something, because like you have to wear many different hats. It's chaotic, so you have to like make sure you're doing things all the time, and you have to do things on the fly. When something doesn't work, you got to go switch gears and you know troubleshoot wherever you need to troubleshoot. So yeah, it's I think it's definitely good because again, you're very flexible, right? So it's not like you're rigid, which is what you need, when it comes to like a chaotic situation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like all that it is, like being a PA. It's like always new information coming up, like this broke, that broke, like oh my god, we're behind schedule. And it's always like, all right, what can I do to help? Like let's like get this like worked out, let's get this solved. And it's always like one thing to the next. And yeah, it's like exactly what is needed in that situation because freezing over like something not working is like not something that is really productive, especially in that sort of environment. So yeah, totally, yeah.
Yeah. Let's go over for your third animal now, which is NT blast. So this is like what the INTJs abuse all day, but you have access to it because it's third. You have masculine NI also, so you can see it, and so NT means figuring things out or puzzle solving. So it's more abstract. It's also planning. So because yours is in a blast state, it's planning for other people. And we'll talk about your NF sleep later on because that's more like planning for yourself. So maybe you're gonna be horrible at planning for yourself, but for other people you can do it. So it's like so let's start with NT play first. Let's talk about planning for other people. Do you feel like that's like something that you have been able to do, is like figure out a plan that would work for other people?
110%. Yeah, I'm always the one like, especially in a group setting, like if I'm trying to get other people to do something or if we need to have an itinerary for like a travel and it's somebody else involved and I always plan out their itinerary and it's a lot of fun for me also like to like do that and I'm like very good at that. Like I'm not going to refrain from saying I'm very good at that, but I just find myself kind of getting in a flow state when planning for other people and figuring it out like okay, well like possibilities like an N land, like an intuitive land. If you were to do this, okay, but that wouldn't work. Like it's always balancing between the N and the T, figuring out like planning and stuff like that. And it's always like thinking about scenarios. But again, this is only for the case of like the other person. So like when somebody's planning for like travel or like their birthday or something like that, like I'll able to like kind of see the whole thing and like work it out like step by step, account for different possibilities, like what if this happens? What if this happens? That won't work because that'll happen.
Yeah.
I always find like sometimes people will be like, "Oh, I have this plan. Like I'm going to do this," and then I'm like, "Wait, have you like looked at that? Like, what if that happens? Like, I don't think that'll work." And then they're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't really see that." And then I'm like, "Yeah, you should also take into account this because that's also important and that may also happen." And then they're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't really see that." So I find myself doing that a lot. Yeah, for sure.
But let's go to you now. So you double masculine NF sleep, planning for yourself. So you can do it for other people, but what about for yourself? Like it's fourth, right? So um yeah.
That's kind of my biggest crutch is planning for myself. I'm always behind schedule. I'm always late. I always have missed assignments. It's a mess. And when I try and sit down and plan for myself, it's not the same sort of like flow state that I get with like doing it for other people.
Right.
It's like so much more like, okay, like we're gonna do this. Like this week is finals week, and so I had to like actually sit down and I've had to learn like because in the past I have not planned at all, and it was absolute chaos and just madness because I didn't get any of my assignments done. So this week is finals week, and it's like okay, I'm not gonna let this happen again. It's like I sat down and I wrote out kind of like an itinerary for myself, but it was like very difficult, and also it's difficult for me to stick to that plan because then like the next day I'm like oh, and then I just like do something else, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I did notice that like when I interviewed like ESFPs that are like consume sleep versus consume play blast like you are. The consume sleep they can plan for themselves, but they can't plan for other people. And then like it's like the opposite. Like yeah, you can plan for other people, but for yourself. And I think the weird like paradox about your type too is like your sleep is double masculine, so you can actually see the plan, you just don't want to do it. I don't know if that like relates to
yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like I know what I need to do in order to get somewhere, but I'm like, no, I'm good. And it's that's something that I'm trying to grapple is like being able to sort of buckle down and like follow through with the plan that I see for myself. And knowing that like that will get me to success. Like for example, like this week I'm leaving for Costa Rica tomorrow, and it's like, okay, this week I gotta really like, I see what I need to do in order to like benefit myself is I need to like do all my work. I need to get it all done, so that I don't have to worry about it when I'm in Costa Rica. And like, it's kind of just been loosey goosey, kind of just not very like buckled down, just letting myself go do other things and whatever. But it definitely takes a lot of effort for sure. But that's really interesting about planning, being able to plan for others and not for myself.
Yeah.
I hadn't really like processed that necessarily. So, and that's like so true. Like that's like very, very true. Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay. So one thing that I am wondering about is, yes, you don't like to plan for yourself, even if you can see the plan already because it's double masculine. So you rather not do it. But you're also info dominant. So wouldn't that bother you? Because you want to have like make sure that everything's like accurate and so it's like you have like a lot of contradictions going on here.
That's kind of a good way to put it. Most of my mind is just contradicting itself all the time.
Yeah.
And really, it's kind of a struggle because yeah, because you're right. Like it's like the infodom kind of puts in. It's like, wait, why aren't you doing this? Like you have to do
Yeah.
this. And I think
Yeah.
that comes in a lot of like sort of insecurities or like beating myself up. Is like the like I saw it happening and then it didn't happen, and I'm just like, wow, that was like really, that was so like bad of you. Like why didn't you just like take the time to like plan it out or like actually put your plan in action? Like the missing information, like why didn't you like, and the thing is it's like frustrating because it's like I see it but then I just don't do it, and it's like, and then but then I feel obligated to do it, and then I do it sometimes, but then when I don't do it I'm like, I get so down on myself because I'm like, oh my god, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you knew exactly what you needed to do, but you didn't do it. So it's
and it's like, yeah, and then I'm like, that is so stupid of me. Like what was I thinking? I'll sometimes just go through like moments of self-sabotage where I completely like, I know what I have to do. It may be like, honestly, it may be like the narrowing down that kind of freaks me out, but like I'll see exactly what I have to do, what I need to do, and how I'm gonna do it. And then I kind of like freak out, and then I just kind of like go on some self-sabotage rant where I'm like not doing schoolwork and just like going off and doing something else, or like not thinking about it, and like trying to like ignore that even though it's in the back of my head. And I don't know, yeah. But yeah, anyways.
well, I had a thought which kind of flew away, which is kind of annoying. Oh man, I had a good question for you based on what you said, but it flew away. Oh, I hate when that happens. Stupid SI in the bottom. But anyways, yeah, so my question was something to do with your NF sleep actually.
Mhm.
I don't remember now. Oh man, so annoying. Anyways, I'll maybe I'll come back later. So I'll ask you something else. Um, so when it comes to NF sleep, um, I noticed that people that are like the same quadra as you, the same people that share all your functions, the NF sleep they have like a mantra that they live by or like a code. Do you personally have like a code that you live by? I can give some examples.
Sure.
Sure. So my girlfriend's an INTJ jumper, and one of her code that she lives by, actually, this is her number one code, is discomfort over resentment. Right. So no matter what in life, she will always go back to this. And if she knows that she's gonna be resentful, if she doesn't do this thing that is painful, then this is the right thing to do, obviously. So
Mm.
um so that's hers. But then other famous people, they would have their own version of this mantra, right? Like Jocko Willink, his is discipline equals freedom, you know. Um and then yeah, so Kamala Harris has like what's hers is like be joyful warriors.
Uh-huh.
Jobs has his own too. It's like something about like I don't know the exact word, but like I'm just gonna paraphrase. It's like something about like be curious, be foolish, or something, something like that, which is good for like an IJ because it means like if you're curious, it means you want to learn. If you're foolish, it's like willing to make a mistake, which is like chaos. So
Yeah.
yeah. So do you personally have like a mantra that you live by, like a code that you live by that like you kind of go back to?
Yeah, the I don't know if it's like as strong as all these other ones, but this is the one that did come to mind, and it's, I not only use it for myself, but I also use it for other people, and it kind of like repeats in my head. It's this too shall pass.
Yeah.
I saw it like on my my like friend's bench, and I kind of was like, huh, that's really interesting. So I've been kind of using that a lot, especially in moments of like high stress or like, anxiety or whatever. Like I sort of like repeat that mantra to myself, or just remember that, something along those lines, like this too shall pass, or like whatever. I don't know if it's as strong as like the other ones that you mentioned, but that's one that did come to mind. I'm trying to think if like there's any other mantras that I sort of,
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. If I think of something, I'll tell you. But that's like the biggest one that does come to mind, and I use it a lot. Like I'll write it down, or I'll like, or I'll type it to other people, or I'll sort of like say it to myself, and yeah.
well, it's all good, man. Like you're only 18, so don't beat yourself up over it. It's something that's gonna come to you as you get older, as you get more life experience. Um,
Yeah.
so I remember the question I had for you earlier. So when you were saying some stuff earlier, it made me realize that you probably struggle with delayed gratification. Like you always want to live in a moment and like have that like candy now as opposed to later on. That's um and I feel like that's like the conflict between your SE and your like NF sleep. It's like the SE wants it now, like in the moment, but like the NF is like, hey man, that's not good for you. If you wait a little bit longer, you can have something even better. So can you talk about like that struggle, that like inner struggle when it comes to that?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. So this is something, yeah, this is a big one. Or like a pretty decent hefty one in my life. I have a tendency to like, if there's something better, then I'll go to that, or something that I want to do more in the moment. I'll go to that over what I should do. But also at the same time, I'm telling myself like, wait a second, like you're going to do this thing that's so fun, and like you're gonna have a blast, but then you're ignoring this, which will have long-term benefits.
Yeah.
And like there's that struggle there. And the problem is, if I don't go to the thing that I want to do that looks super fun, I'll have extreme FOMO, like the worst FOMO in the entire world. Like, oh my God, I could be there having so much fun, da, 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 da. But then if I do go, then I'll feel guilty for not like focusing in on like what I actually have to do. So it's like it's a lose lose. Like no matter what I do, like I'm just like there's a recent situation where um my dad had planned like a birthday brunch with some family members for him. It was his birthday on the weekend. And we had planned it like a week in advance. But then last minute, like 2 days before, my friends were asking like if I wanted to go camping in Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
And like immediately I was like, yeah, of course I want to go camping in Joshua Tree. But then I remembered I told my dad or something, or he found out. And then he's like, what about the Saturday thing? And immediately I was like, oh my God. And so I had to take like a couple days kind of like weighing out, like I really wanted to go camping in Joshua Tree, but at the same time, it would have been like doing a disservice not only to myself, but to my dad. I think mainly to myself, because I had to learn to sort of stick to my commitments. I have to learn to stick to my commitments, even when new information kind of comes up. I'm trying to like learn that. So it's like, okay, so in the long run, it's going to be beneficial if I like tie down and just like stick to what I had previously planned. But it was really difficult because I was like, camping in Joshua Tree, you know? So I ended up deciding to stay and not go camping in Joshua Tree. And like everybody there was like, oh my God, Charlie, it's so much fun. And I was just like really wanting to go. But at the same time, I did feel like I kind of made the right decision because, in the end, it was the greater scheme of things was that. So I always think that's more important. But there's always that dilemma. And it's really is a lose-lose. Because no matter what I do, I'm going to be feeling like I'm missing out on something, or that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to your struggle because I'm an EP also. So FOMO is like the arch enemy here,
Yeah.
Stupid FOMO. But
FOMO, literally, it's the worst. It's so bad.
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised this not has been explored more in like the personality community, like EP and FOMO. I think this is like a big topic actually, because like this is something we all share. As like I've interviewed a lot of different EPs, like ESTP, ENTP, and ENFPs, and FOMO seems to be like the number one enemy here.
It really is. And I like that's just something that I've dealt with, and it goes even like further to like an existential level of like And I think it also has to do with like the closing of pathways with like the observer like feeling like you can't do it again, and also the OE like in conflict with that. Like I didn't get into, or I'm doing community college right now, so all of my friends are in college, and like seeing them like having this fun college life is giving me such like, oh my god, like it's just hurts so badly because like I wish that I could be like doing all this fun stuff that I wanted, but then at the same time I keep going to back to like, well, the reason why I didn't get into college is because, well, I think a part of it was that, like, neglecting my schoolwork and stuff like that, especially during the pandemic, was so hard to like buckle down and do my schoolwork. So how about I take this time to like actually improve upon my study skills and my like work ethic and stuff like that, so that when I actually do go to college, I'm actually going to be like have like some, I don't know, weight to it. But it is difficult to like see like all my friends, like that's been a big thing, like moving out, going to college and like all that stuff. I'm like, oh my god, like I wish I could do that,
Yeah.
um so yeah, FOMO. I know, I've noticed that with a lot of EPs, it's like a FOMO thing. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would assume it's just the ENFP and ESFP because we make decisions based on how we feel. But even like the ESTPs and ENTPs do dumb shit, right? As a result of the FOMO stuff, because they also
Yeah.
have it. Like the ESTPs I interviewed, I'm like, you guys are supposed to be logical, but you don't do logical stuff because you still have that FOMO happening. So
Yeah. And the
yeah,
FOMO does prevent me from like really seeing, like the greater picture, just like being able to like make like accurate decisions. But then again, that double masculine enough sleep kind of is at the bottom being like, this isn't right. So and again, it's like a lose-lose, because even if I do go, I'll still feel guilty for not like for neglecting another part of my
yeah,
life. So
yeah, yeah. You can't really. I mean, there's always there is a right choice. The right choice doesn't just feel good in the moment.
that's,
Um,
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, like in the moment I felt like crap, like, oh my god, I have FOMO, whatever. But
yeah.
then in the long run, like that feeling passes, and then it's going on to the next thing, and I'll have another opportunity. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't think per se that you're like making a bad life choice because I was listening to Dave talk about like gathering and organizing, and he did say like in your 20s you should be doing dumb shit and gathering stuff. So it's not like it's like a bad thing because you can learn from that, and then when you're older you can make better decisions, right? And also you want to get it out of your system too, because like he made an example of like an INTJ consume last who's like 50-year-old and like learning how to like rollerblade or something or like skateboard, and they're wearing like elbow pads and a helmet and like knee pads in their like neighborhood, and they're like in their 50s, so they just look so pathetic. Like it's just so lame pathetic. Like you don't want to be that guy. Just get it out of your system in your 20s, whatever you need to do, and then later on you don't make an ass of yourself. So um
Yeah, and I think that's what I've been doing a lot is like, I mean, I did like a year abroad to Costa Rica, and like always like trying new experiences and all that stuff. And so yeah, for sure. I think like that's like part of learning process. Like you have to fail in order to learn, and like it's seeing it or going through like realizing, what is right or what's best for you is really important in like the learning process for sure. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, I feel like the FOMO demon never really goes away because I'm like in my 30s and I'm like, oh, I still have FOMO, like still. And like for me, like the biggest dilemma is like it's like, oh, me and my girlfriend are getting old. We should probably get married soon. And I'm like, but I still want to do all this fun stuff. And
Yes.
and I'm like, oh, and I'm like dying inside, right? And but
Yeah.
I found a solution actually, and the solution I feel like it's the right one. So I feel like as an EP, we need to set parameters. So it's not like you can't do it, but you need to have like a deadline. And after you finish that, then you need to adhere to it. It's not like you can't do the fun stuff anymore, but you do it less. So for me, my dream is to visit every country in the world. So there's like 193 countries, right? So I've been to 89, but I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And then I was like, there's if I go visit every single country in the world, I will have no money to like, buy a home, get married, have a family, because I squandered it all to have fun. And like not and trying to visit every country in the world, it's not a bad thing because I am like sleep last, so that means like I should pursue my passions and my dreams, but I need to be realistic also, as because like how like a double observer would do it. So for me, I was like, okay, Kendrick, let's have like I had to talk to myself. So I think this is something you have to do too. It's like I
Yeah.
said to myself, I'm like, hey man, okay, it's not like you can't visit every country in the world. You just have to take your time to do it. So what you're gonna do is once you hit 100 countries, you're gonna slow down. Not like you can't, but you're gonna slow down. So every year you can still go visit like one or two, but you can't.
Wow.
But then
Yeah.
but you can't blow all your money to like visit all. Like just after you hit 100, you're gonna slow down, focus more on the family stuff, and like like girlfriend, possibly get married, start a family, buy a home, whatever, and then you can do it on your vacation time. You can still visit like a country or two, right? So I was like, okay, I can accept that compromise. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like been my plan now. It's like, okay, I'll go to 100, and after 100, I'm okay with slowing down. So it's um, so
Because it's like if I do this thing, it's like for me, it's like if I do this thing, then I can't do this thing like ever. And it's like, but it's not like that. Like I can have that compromise of like, all right, let's like take time for this, like schedule this, and then after that, let's just slow down and like move into like what really matters. Yeah, yeah, because it's like I'm thinking like far into the future, like oh my god, like okay, but I'm gonna get work, I'm gonna get a job, and then I'm just gonna be working till I die, and then I'm gonna die, and like then what's like I'm gonna be old, and like what, like it's just like so stressful because like I feel like there's not enough time, and like if I do one thing, then I won't be able to do another thing, and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a really good piece of advice, though. I'm gonna start utilizing that, I think.
yeah, well, I feel like part of using your sleep processing is like really like understanding how you feel and like what you value. So it's like for like a good example of what to do is like, okay, just like kind of like look inside you, be like, okay, what's like a bucket list of stuff like I've always wanted to do, like make like a massive like ass list of like everything you want to do, right? And then after you have like a big ass list, you look at the list. So again, sleep processing means like going over the same known information. So you look at this list that you made, you're like, okay, which is like fuck yeah, like you see like and then put like a check mark besides all the fuck yes, right? you know and and then yeah, and then you gotta start doing all them, start like doing all the stuff that is like a fuck yeah, right? And then the ones are like they're like cool, but like it's not like hell yeah. Then it's like, you know what, they can wait. They can wait. So
Yeah,
I feel like that's like the best way to go about it.
that's a really good way of looking at that. It's definitely yeah, because there's some things that I just want to do like so badly, like there's no way that I can't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. And you
Yeah,
gotta do those. You have to do it. You
I
know.
have to. Yeah,
But there's some stuff that is like, do I really need to?
yeah,
Like, you
because
know?
it's like because really there's like endless things that I want to do. It's like at some point there's gonna be no end, but it's like connecting with my core values, like all right, what is something that I actually want to do that is going to actually fuel my soul and
Yeah,
that I'm get out of my system.
yeah,
Excuse me. And without, doing all this extra stuff. Because again, it's like I go from one thing, it's like, oh, I want to do this too. Oh, and I want to do this too. And then it's like an overload of things. But yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like another thing, like I think that you can do since you're like a visual person is
yeah,
like go in a mirror and like look at yourself and like imagine you're like 30 years old and be like, okay, if I was 30 and I haven't done this, how would I feel about myself? And like so you go through your damn list, right? And then you're like, yeah, this one, yeah, I probably feel the same, like if I did or did not. But
yeah,
this one, oh yeah, definitely feel good about myself, like knowing that I did this. So I'm like, okay, gotta do this then. And then you're like looking at yourself in the mirror, you're right, because like it's like your portrait, but like using your masculine NI to like project yourself into the future, but like
wow.
older. I mean, you're probably not going to age much because 30 year old look really young these days. I mean, I'm in my 30s. I don't look that old. So, like, like, uh,
Myself, yeah, yeah. That's really good. I'm like, that's good. That's really good. I'm now kind of thinking about that from that perspective. I'm gonna start using that. Like that's because a lot of times I really don't know like what is one thing that's like more important than the other, or like what is actually like, you know, what is actually something that I want to do versus something that's just kind of like in the moment what I want to do. Um and like I know like my main stuff is like I want to be a film director and all that. But that's like more career stuff. But it's like this like endless list of things that I want to do. Like I have to really take a step back and be like, all right, like what is actually going to be like something that I'm going to be upset at if I don't do it. So
yeah,
that's Good way of doing it. I like that. I like that. I'm gonna save that.
Yeah, and then part of having sleep is having a routine, right? So it's like what if you woke up every day and like the first 2 minutes you look in the mirror, every day, and then and then you think about this, just like quick 2 minute sleep processing. It's not like super hard. This is only 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I bet you if you did that for like freaking like every day for like the rest of your life, just 2 minutes, 2 freaking minutes, look in the mirror, and like imagine yourself like 10 years older or whatever. I feel like you would make really good decisions, like
I think so too, because I think I neglect a lot of my sleep processing for like the play, and then it kind of like builds up a lot, and then I'm just like, what is going on? Like what? Especially like demon intuition, like oh my god, it's crazy. So yeah, and what I also with routine, I've been trying to do like workouts every day. Like what's something that I can like do every single day, like just to implement some sort of routine. So I'm gonna do that in part of my morning routine.
yeah.
That would
I feel like though because you're like lead play, I don't think working out is like gonna be the hardest thing. I think you probably like it, you probably enjoy it. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Oh
uh,
yeah, no, I do love it. Yeah, but I guess it's the consistency. I love working out, but it's like being able to like do it every single day because like I'll be like working out and then like I work out like whatever every single day and then I get bored and I'm like and then I wake up and it's like actually I want to do this instead, So it's like especially with technology like being such a distractor, like there's so many things. But yeah, I love working out. Yeah, it's great. It like to be like ooh, yeah, it's great. I like to wear myself down. That's another thing that I love doing. I like to wear myself down. Like
yeah.
I like to feel like dead at the end of the day.
Like I work in the fitness industry, and like one of my coworker, I'm pretty sure his client is like exactly your type. I think he's like a double feminine
Really?
ESFP, consume play blast. Like, he kind of looks like you. He's very extroverted also, and
Cool.
I think what's been working for him is the fact that he has a coach. It's like he has to and it's good too because he's like buddies with my coworker, right? Because like he's using so much play, so they use a lot of play. But because he has a coach, the coach kind of keeps him like
Accountable.
focus on his like progress. So instead of like getting bored or like trying something else that he shouldn't be trying, because like sometimes in workout you do have to do the same thing over and over again to like see the results. So and I think I think his my coworker, I think his coach was like he's an ISTJ, so it's like very like rigid at like the program, which is actually what he needs. Because now he looked like I've seen him like train with this guy for 3 years now, and when I first met, I saw him. He was like a stick, right? And now he's like he's getting pretty ripped, So I'm like, huh. So I was like, maybe an ESFP who sleep last probably just needs a coach, like
Yes. No, I agree. I always find myself working the best or just like being the most consistent and following through. Because that's another thing, like starting films on my own, like short films, like a lot of times I just like stop doing them or whatever. Like I just move on to the next thing. Um, and like whenever I have somebody who's sort of like keeping me accountable, and usually it's some sort of OI, like I've
yeah,
noticed.
yeah, oh I
Yeah, like I've noticed that. It like motivates me so much because then it's just like, yeah, like yeah, yeah, and it's like I don't know, it's nice. I've noticed that for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I only have love for OI people. Like I wouldn't be where I am today without the help of OIs, because like
Yeah.
I would just be a nuthead, like an EP nuthead.
Same.
Yeah, like, and then
Uh,
I'm pretty sure they would say the same thing about us. Like, oh yeah, our life would be boring and like unfulfilled without like the EP, giving them some chaos and something new, right? So it's a good like relationship, I think.
it's such a good relationship. Yeah, it's such a good balance.
Yeah. If you're like I said, if you're like in San Jose area, if when I go there, and you know,
Yes,
you would
that
totally
would
yeah, my girlfriend's an INTJ, you'd totally get along with her because like
that would be so cool. Literally, that would be so cool. And San Jose is not that far from where I'm staying, actually. So realistically, I could.
like do a day trip or something.
Yeah, it's an hour. It's only an hour bus ride. That's a bus ride, so bus ride takes longer. It's really close. Like I could literally do that. I'm text me the day that you're gonna be there. I will do that.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Yeah, we're hitting up like the slot sanctuary and like see like slots.
You going to the sloth sanctuary?
Well, I mean, like, isn't there like one in San Jose? There's like a slot sanctuary there, right?
Yes, there is. Yeah, I've been to that one.
Yeah, is it good?
It's really good. Yeah, it's super cool. It's
I,
like the nature reserve, right? It's like a bunch. It's not just sloths, right? It's like a bunch of other animals.
I heard there's other animals there, yeah. But like, yeah, my girlfriend loves like slots, so I want to take her there and like check them out.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, but
Let me.
I'll like if I'll hit you up like when we go there. Yeah.
So cool. I really have a lack of like OP people in my actual life. So
Yeah.
like I've never met anybody in real life that like is into OP as much as I am. So
Yeah.
that's something that I'm craving, like a
Yeah.
tribe, like and related to that. So yeah, yeah.
Sounds good, dude. Sounds good. All right,
Yeah.
dude. I have two last questions for you, and then we'll wrap up the interview. Okay. Let's first one is let's talk about sexual modalities. You are tester and visual. So tester is like the more I interview people, the more I understand tester because like that's the most confusing sexual modality of like all four of them. Like, what the hell is a tester?
I
So
agree.
yeah, but I think I've narrowed it down based on like my interview with people. So I feel like it's two different. It's two things. Number one, it's like that urge to like experiment, and number two, it's a keen sense of smell. And as you know, um, taste is really smell. So a lot of testers are foodies as a result. Um, so so basically, um, how do you relate to that notion of being like experimental and also being like a foodie or like liking different like not just food but also like different like for like scents, like it could be like candles or whatever.
I think here I'll tell you what I think. I think it makes me a really good cook. Like I think my double feminine tester is it makes me a really good cook because it's the experimentation with also the identification of like certain smells and tastes and things like that. Funny thing is though, I've always had a really horrible sense of smell. Like I've just always had like a bad sense of smell. Like I just don't smell things right. But my taste and like being able to like test different tastes and stuff like that, maybe it is connected subconsciously to my smell, has been like always 100%. And also experimentation is something that I love. Like trying new foods. I've tried I've tried some crazy stuff. Like I've tried bird vomit before. Like it's yeah. So I love that. I love trying new foods. Like that's one thing that I always try and push on to other people is like you gotta just try like new foods. Like it's like, just try it out. And experimentation always. I love just trying new things, even if I don't think that I'm gonna like it. Like I just like to try it for the heck of it. And if I don't like it, I know that I can just like move on, Like, okay, I didn't like that. All right, moving on. But I love that. I love just the experimentation, the flavors. And I was literally like cooking the other day and I was like, I don't know. I feel like I have a really, maybe I'm just like bolstering myself and like putting myself on a pedestal, but I really do think that like my cooking and like I don't need a recipe. Like I can just like this needs this, and I can just tell like just, this needs more this or this needs more that, and putting this and that, and then I end up like figuring out like the best way of making something with all that experimentation. I think it's like yeah, so that's something I don't know if that connects, but that's something that I think connects is like maybe cooking and trying food. I love trying new food, like, and I know like what it needs. Like if something is, I try something, I'm like, that doesn't taste too good. Then I'm like, it needs more this or it needs more that. That's something that I've noticed a lot. And then also aesthetics and fashion or just like visual aesthetics have been something that's always been like a natural sort of strong suit. I've never studied like visual sort of composition or anything like that, but I've always been really good at like designing posters and like Photoshop and creating like really nice compositions with colors and mainly like placement and things like that. But yeah, like just visually appealing things like I feel like I'm good at or having an eye for that. And also that also goes with like clothing and fashion and stuff like that. Like I love thrift shopping. Oh my god, that is the death of me. Literally, talk about SF consume or whatever. Like it just that's what it is. Like even if I don't like have the yeah, it's crazy. Like my I just love buying thrift store items because number one, it connects with my values because it's good for the environment, and number two, it's cheap and I'm a cheapo, and number three, it's super fun to get new clothes and try them on and like mismatch like different clothes and like see how it works and visualize it. Like I always have like a visual for like a certain outfit. Sometimes it doesn't turn out the way that I expect, and then I have to like kind of reformat it. But yeah, I don't know if that gives you a little splurge into more double feminine tester
Yeah.
modality. But I think so, maybe.
Yeah, no, I believe you. My girlfriend's double feminine jumper INTJ, and she is like amazing when it comes to visual arts. Like she always makes posters. She makes like Halloween costumes and shit. And like
Yeah.
she's like it's so good. Like one time she asked me, it's like, oh, what should I dress like for Halloween? And because I'm lead NE, I come up with like crazy ideas. So I'm like, I think you should be like a sun ripe apple juice, you know? and 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 then she literally made like a sun-ripe apple juice costume. It looks so real, like it looks exactly like a juice box, and it like, and people ask her like, "Did you buy that?" And like she's like, "No, I made it." And people are like, "Really?" And
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, and it's not even something that I really think twice about. It just like kind of comes naturally. And I've never taken any classes in like
yeah,
aesthetics or design principles, like literally nothing.
yeah.
But in Photoshop, I'm just really good. Same thing with my films, like composition. I think that attributes to like me as like a filmmaker, like knowing what sort of looks good, and like I really like to refine and just refine like visuals. Like I always like, okay, can be like a little bit better. Like when things are off center, that's one thing I've noticed. Like when things are off center, like I can tell, and it like bothers me, so I always have to like adjust it and fix it. Like, or if something's missing, like I know that something's missing, and I have to put something there and trying out different. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's really interesting.
All right, dude. Last question for you is gonna be related to your NI. Let's talk about tidal waves. Have you had like a "don't control me, bro" syndrome tidal wave, or like a big system, organization, whatever, is trying to control you, trying to tell you what to do, trying to like hold you down, and you freak out, and you're like, no, it's like it could be any authority figure, because it's like you're an EP, so controls your enemy.
That's kind of so. I went to in from kindergarten to sixth grade. I went to a private Catholic school. So
Yes.
as you can imagine, being an EP with human control, that I was very much a "don't control me, bro." Literally in sixth grade, like I was very much like this system. Like you guys are forcing us to wear uniforms, and you're forcing us to conform, and like you want us to believe this, and like meanwhile I'm in sixth grade. So that was something from when I was a child for sure, and like yeah, that's like the biggest one that I can think of. And then also when I was in Costa Rica, I was under the control. I was under the control of this organization called AFS, and they were like in charge of my program, and it was this huge thing where I was like really disgusted with the way that they were like handling this situation with certain students, and I felt that they were controlling us with all these rules and like telling us to do all this stuff, and like they were literally like, I don't know, just like being very like out of communication and like sending kids home for no reason, and like it was just like a mess. But being very vocal about that, I kind of got myself into trouble, because then I was sort of labeled as that like kid that's like a problem child, you know. That was kind of like a wake up call for me, because I was like, oh my god, like I kind of created all these problems for myself. Like I I literally got myself in a situation where like they're considering sending me home, and it's just because I like freaked out, you know.
Yeah.
And I like literally got other students too to like, come on guys, like it was yeah. So that's like another thing. Uh, yeah, for sure. So and then cults, like I always find myself like my sister got into like this like manifestation program or whatever, and I'm like
Oh
just
my
thinking
God.
that's a cult. Like that is a cult. And then I caught myself, I'm like, okay, like let's just like address the problem. Like that's just demon and I, like it's not anything bad, you know. So yeah,
Well,
cults, like, that's been a thing that has been
I
real.
feel I feel like you were probably right though, because when I hear the word manifestation, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a, so I think maybe when what you were doing when you're sixth grade, maybe you're out of line, and like causing all those trouble, like when you were in Costa Rica, maybe you're out of line. But I feel like as an EP, you can also distinguish which is like legit and a cult. I feel like maybe that manifestation one, maybe you were spot on with that.
Yeah. And it's yes. Oh, and then yeah, exactly. And then another time I was in an Uber driver with this guy, and he was talking to me about this like business opportunity and like making money. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. Like, sure, give me your number. Like, we'll set up a Zoom meeting or whatever. And we had the Zoom meeting, and he was telling me all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, sounds like a pyramid scheme. Like, I can tell. And like my dad too. My dad and my sister also are low consume like IJs, so like they get into so many like cults, honestly, like or like random things, like random like this new cool thing. And I'm like my dad tried this thing called grounding. It was like this like pad that you like sat on to like ground yourself of like your electricity. It's like
Fuck.
come on. So I think that's part of like my OE and also infodom, like being like, have you really like
You
taken
didn't
in,
consume anything.
did you really consume anything? Because I don't think so. But yeah, I've been able to like identify more responsibly when it's actual like something's actually fishy rather than it just being like out of line, you know. Because when I was younger, it was kind of just like out of line, unhinged. But I think as I've done that and seen the repercussions of that, and also learning about OPS, I'm like kind of able to take a step back and be like, well, that's just kind of like my my mind.
All right. So Charles, thanks for coming out and doing this interview. We're gonna wrap it up right now. But yeah, man, we'll stay in touch and we'll see what happens in the
Yes, for
coming.
sure. I'm so excited. I hope you have a wonderful trip to Argentina.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, this is a great interview. I mean, great processing. It's
yeah,
been great. Yeah,
yeah, for
amazing.
sure, dude. All right, peace out.
Oh, bye. Thanks.